I think there's a fundamental change taking place in the television business, which is that for a long time there were always emerging categories and emerging brands that were coming around and were coming into television as their business scaled, and they came into television using the same standards and sort of the same strategies as had been used by brands before them. What we see now, especially with direct-to-consumer brands, brands that are emerging and scaling, is that they don't use those same strategies. They aren't willing to accept the same metrics of broad age and gender. They're really looking for an understanding of what television is going to do for their business, and not over the long term. They want an understanding of what it's going to do for their business, now. What happens in the 8 to 10 minutes after the spot airs, and I think the only way you really get to that is through attribution. It's one thing to trade on broad age and gender demographics. That will always be there, but you have to be able to have the conversation about attribution, about business results and impact if you're going to attract these new advertisers to television. So we absolutely expect more traditional brands to follow in the footsteps. It's just there's still an open question about how successful they will be able to be in doing so. The difference between an emerging direct-to-consumer brand and a lot of legacy brands is that direct-to-consumer brands control their path to market. For the most part, it's owned and operated e-commerce, and they also understand their customer. They really understand the behaviors and the motivations. That's fundamentally different than what a traditional legacy brand might do. They might not control their path to the customer, right? They might work with a retailer. They might not have the ability to scrape the same data that a direct-to-consumer brand does. So there's no question about the value of understanding and getting to attribution for a legacy brand, but there are still a lot of open questions about their ability to do so. The barriers to entry to offering attribution are really twofold. The first is complexity, and the second is cost. It is really hard to do proper attribution. You have to understand media mix modeling, you have to be able to take data from many sources, and you have to be able to really understand and communicate with a brand where you as an individual media owner fall into that mix. That's an issue of complexity. And then there's an issue of cost. It's very expensive to do those things correctly. One of the things that we're doing at A+E, we're attempting to try and drive down that cost. We're attempting to try and drive down that complexity through our Precision One product. That's an offering essentially where rather than saying we will answer all of the questions for you, let's just start with the first question, right? Let's start with a particular attribution metric that you want to look at. Let's start with a particular type of content. Let's start with a particular time period, 1 month, where we're working together to create the results. It doesn't have to be all of the steps at once. We can take one step at a time as we go.